the structure of reality as we have been taught, it's not truly how things are.
People are very comfortable. People like structure and they like rules because it makes them feel safe. Don't think that the powers that be want structure and order on this planet. That's all changing now because people are waking up. So let me be clear. My sister was a doctor, but she would have said exactly what I'm saying. What I believe about your healing will impact your healing. So if I tell you you're very sick and you need these drugs, you're automatically going to believe it because I told you. So we have been taught that all of the power is within outside of us. And we've been taught since we were little kids.
Okay, so I guess I just want to jump in and start with, what are you really passionate about right now?
I'm very passionate about helping individuals, humanity at large, one person at a time, understand to quote one of my favorite scientists, Greg Braden, to reclaim their divinity and to understand truly that this three-dimensional world around them is not operating the way they think that it is, that we have so much more power, and any attempts to reveal that always get squashed down like, oh, that's silly, or that's woo woo, or that's cuckoo la la, or whatever it is. I do think now at this time and space, people are waking up more and more. And I am very passionate about helping people wake up. I do a lot of speaking engagements, well, from my book, but I am broadening the discussion. The journey in my book is about this very topic, about what I'm passionate about, which is my mission to help humanity embrace their creative power so that we can all walk gracefully during this very challenging time on the planet. Most importantly, people tend to look outside of themselves, mainly at political and world leaders, to solve the problems of the planet. But the fact of the matter is that quantum physics has proven that we are actually creating our reality around us with every thought and every word and every deed. And we cannot rely on the exterior world and people to change the circumstances that we created in the first place. Not consciously, by the way, for the most part, right? Nobody wants to live on a planet that is so filled with division right now. And my goal is to help people understand how that is so, and that changing the world is an inside job. And it starts when we start changing ourselves. And so that's what I speak about. That's what I wrote my book about. And that is what I work with individuals on one at a time, is helping them break through, because the tool that I use is I educate people on the power of their subconscious.
That is a beautiful mission, Annie. That is such a beautiful mission. Okay, so before you started this work, right, you mentioned coming upon spiritual experiences and how that kind of opened you up to coming along on this path. I'd love for you to take us back a little bit to that and what that, I guess, experience was like for you.
Sure. I mean, I think everyone listening to this podcast has had an experience that didn't make sense on the physical, and I'm talking about, messages from the universe, messages from departed loved ones, from spirit, incredible synchronicities that they might say, wasn't that a coincidence? I was just thinking about Grandma Joan. And, my cousin called me today looking for something, and I couldn't find it. So I searched and searched, and I opened up a drawer, and there's Grandma Joan, and today's her birthday, from 20 years ago or something. Before the energies were affecting our technology, we were talking about sort of the beginning of my journey when I first started noticing, what got me on this journey, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I would say it was about 30 years ago. I started noticing that my thoughts and my deepest prayers and wishes, things that I really contemplated over, were appearing in my life. And at first, you might think people have this experience and they think it's a coincidence, and then they happen with great consistency.
Mm.
And everyone has had these experiences, right? Whether they're, thinking about a departed loved one, or it's an anniversary of their loved one's death or their birthday, and they get some strange message. Something strange happens. Like, you know, perhaps it's your grandmother's birthday and you're thinking about her. And maybe you secretly ask her for a sign, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're just not even asking for a sign consciously, and someone calls you and they ask you for an address of someone or a picture, or you look and you're pulling. What do you see as soon as you open up a door that you never would have opened if you didn't get that phone call? And it's your grandmother staring at you, right?
Yeah.
So, and you might go, isn't that interesting? And then you just might not think about it anymore. These things were happening with so incredibly and so often to me. I finally stopped one day and said, you guys are listening to me. Like, somebody out there is like listening to what I'm saying, because this just keeps happening. And then when I did that, things really exploded. And I wanted to know everything that I could know about this, and things just kept happening and things kept happening. And at the same time, my sister Teresa, who was a very well-known and beloved doctor in Southwest Florida, was making her own interesting discoveries. And she was discovering, as a Western trained doctor in board certified in internal medicine, she made her journey from that to integrative, to holistic, to functional, to anti-aging, to every kind of board certification and recognition and specialty that you can think of after MD. And she ultimately ended up doing energy medicine, which
Wow.
is quite a journey for a Western doctor to make, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
So she was very excited as she was reading the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton, and she was talking about epigenetics, emotions over genes. And he says emotions are what making is what the emotions make us sick. And disease has very little to do with genes and everything to do with emotions. And she started to talk that way. So we were both so excited about what we were experiencing in the realm of emotions on her end, and mine was spirit. Of course, we learned to realize it was all one and the same.
Yeah.
And we were excited about sharing what we understood in our own way. And my sister was getting on that platform, and she was doing talks in Southwest Florida. Her name was Dr. Teresa Sievers. And I was trying to put together some sort of a soul coaching practice to help people connect and just give them some basic tools. And as we started stepping into our passion and the things that excited us, the synchronicities really got bigger and bigger for both of us, like the constant numbers, the constant coincidences that I started to call them divine synchronicities, which is a term that I thought I coined, but it's actually, in the nomenclature of spiritual conversation, is divine synchronicities. I thought I
Yeah.
made that up, which is pretty cool. So they were happening so profoundly, and they really crescendoed on September 26th, 2014, when we went to Newark for the weekend. We were going to see Elizabeth Gilbert, whose big book at the time was Eat, Pray, Love. And we were super excited to go see her speak at a conference. And that weekend, everything was over the top with synchronicities. And my sister said to me, this is happening for a reason. We shared prophetic dreams. We had total recall, all in this one isolated moment. And so she said, I know we have a mission to share this, and we're supposed to do something really important in the future. And we just counted on getting more signs because we were following the breadcrumbs. But before we could figure out what we were supposed to do, 9 months to the day of that divine understanding, my sister was brutally murdered,
Mm.
which underscored the mission.
Wow.
All right, 9 months is a birth. We know that's an incredible metaphor. I still remember the day. It was in between realizing who murdered her and the day after her services in Southwest Florida when I realized I knew that there was a significance because I kept saying, well, what, how could she be gone? For obvious, so many reasons. How could she be gone? Like, but the other thing was, well, what, who killed her? But the other thing was, well, what about our mission? What about our mission? And I remembered our conversation. I looked at a calendar. I knew the date because it was the anniversary of my father's death that we had the understanding, another little mystical synchronicity. And I said, oh my God, it was 9 months ago on the day she was murdered that we understood this.
Mm,
So then what, so that's how my journey started. And then I wanted to know everything I could possibly understand about the nature of reality and our human existence. So I read whatever I can get my hands onto. I watched podcasts, and I'm an Audible addict. And I gathered, and I was already certified in Reiki, and I had done the Silla method of meditation. I had immersed myself in this study. And now, with my sister on the other side, I knew I had an ally there
mm,
because my sister was always saying, how do you do this? You got to teach me how to do this stuff that you're doing. I don't know why I can't do it. I said, well, I think it's because you're so frenetic and you're so busy that you can't, and you have your own mission.
mm,
Little did I know that in no time at all, not only would my sister be doing this communication, but she would be doing it from the other side. And her messages are so precise. It's not like, seeing the dragonfly and thinking, oh, that was my grandmother. And, you know,
yeah.
bless all of you who have seen dragonflies and said that was your grandmother or your Uncle Bob. I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm saying when you ask someone to give you a sign and 5 minutes later someone is texting you a photograph from another state saying, look what I just found, and it's your sister's nickname on a license plate from the state that she lives on the make of the car that she drives. That's a
Wow.
calling card. That's the kind of stuff that my sister was doing from almost the moment she left her body.
Mm,
She let us know she was alive and kicking. She confirmed who her killer was precisely, precisely.
wow.
So, yeah, so once arrests were made and killers were arrested, and there were three, my sister was on to the next order of business, the mission. And I was already, by then, I was kind of like, yeah, well, I don't know where my spark went, you know?
Mm,
And in that one moment, when this email came through for a webinar, which I don't attend personal webinars because I was always inundated with them in corporate America. And I was required to see them always during my lunch hour. And I was like, I want to go to the gym, but for whatever reason, it sparked me because this webinar was about tapping. And I knew that was a modality that my sister talked about in her practice, and she had success with it with her patients, and I had tried it. So I reluctantly said, okay, well, maybe there'll be a sign from my sister.
mm,
Maybe there'll be some sign. Maybe something will say the mission, or I don't know. Well, I watched it, and what I got out of this webinar was this is the worst webinar I've ever seen. I complained about every single thing, and then the immediate voice was, I could do so much better. And then it was, well, why don't I? So I started get excited for the first time, that same sort of feeling of excitement, which is such a creative force within each of us. When you're excited, you go there. You go there. It's your cue system, your inner intelligence telling you yes, yes. So I yesed it. And I said, this is what I'm going to do. And I started to put together an outline for a presentation. And I started to say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to that place where I wanted to bring all of this information together and help people step outside themselves and see what they're capable of on a very small scale then. And I'll bring in everything my sister taught me, which was a wealth of information that I was living that life. And in doing that, and stumbling, doing my research, a video popped up on YouTube. And this is like, 11 years ago. So the algorithms weren't that great then. It wasn't like you were thinking about something and it would show up.
Yeah.
And a video popped up of Dr. Bruce Lipton, and I knew I was supposed to watch it. I knew that this is what it was all about because, oh, my sister mentioned this man, and he started talking. It was the biology of beliefs. He started talking about the power of the subconscious and all his research. And I said, oh my God, my life makes sense to me now. This is the mission. And immediately after that, asking more questions to the universe and to my sister, a video came up about the tool that I use to work with the subconscious.
Mhm.
So this became the mission. I asked my sister, and she confirmed very emphatically that this was the mission through her signs. And to get back to your first question about what am I passionate about, I'm passionate about helping people tap into their personal power. And the tool that I use, and a very there's many different vehicles, right, that people can use. But the subconscious is a vast area of our being, and it does truly create our experience. So when people say, hey, I kind of think I believe in that whole thing, we create our reality, and maybe it's on your t-shirt or something.
Yeah.
But there's real science behind there, and it's amazing science and research. And I hope to bring that information out into the mainstream fold, which I know that it is getting more and more traction. And that's why I wrote this book to capture my journey with my sister. And it's what my sister told me after she was murdered. She told me who murdered her, and then she led me on this mission to help support humanity at this time. This is we are on the precipice here of our very existence, not only our physical existence on this planet, because there's so much turmoil, but to reclaiming and holding on to who we are as human beings in the advent of artificial intelligence. And I'm hoping to help people realize their possibilities, realize how truly powerful we are.
So, studying the nature of consciousness and quantum physics and energy medicine, what were some of your findings? What did you begin to understand about the nature of consciousness and all of these things?
That consciousness goes on and on and on, and that it's not contained inside the body,
Hmm.
and that there's a field, the quantum field, where everything already exists. It's already there. All we have to do is bring it in. But mostly what I learned about our consciousness is that what's preventing us from truly accessing the full potential of our being is the limitations that are set inside of our subconsciousness.
Mm.
And what really is very fascinating and people don't realize is that from around the age of 0 to the age of 7, every experience that we are engaged in, whether actively or passively, becomes a download and it becomes a program.
Hmm.
It becomes a program. And in addition to those programs that we didn't choose, we also have traumatic experiences or emotionally charged experiences on a very small scale that become part of that operating system. So people say, well, that's okay because, I know what's going on and I've been to therapy and, I understand that, I'm like this because this happened when I was 5. But what people don't understand is that we spend 95% of our day in consciousness.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, in subconsciousness. So
Yeah.
it means we're not aware of what we're doing. We only spend 5% of our day in consciousness, and those are wishes and desires. Those are things that we want to do, and they're very present moment, like our conversation. But the subconscious is really driving our creativity. So when people say, well, what do you mean? What do you mean I created the state of the world? What do you mean I created my life? What do you mean I created a life where I don't have enough money?
Yeah.
I have a terrible relationship and my child was born, like this, or these terrible things happened to me. What do you mean I created that? That's a loaded question, right?
Mm,
Well, because we do create things vibrationally and not necessarily in a linear way, how we attract things. So it's a very dynamic process, our creation, but ultimately our subconscious is a program that is operating, that is making decisions for us without our conscious permission.
yeah.
Okay, so that's one that, so neurologically, that's a thing that's happening from a spiritual or quantum physics perspective, a scientific perspective. The law of attraction is real.
Yes.
But people go, "Well, I don't understand because I have affirmations, I have plenty of money, that I love myself, that I'm beautiful, and nothing has changed. I have vision boards and all this kind of stuff, and I read The Secret and all this good stuff." But your vision boards and your affirmations, those are conscious wishes and desires that are happening 5% of the day.
Yeah.
The universe does not respond to those energies. It responds to the program that you didn't choose 95% of the day, blasting out on a huge vibrational megaphone, if you will, like far. And so we can have affirmations and vision boards that support abundance and wealth. But if we grew up in a family where we had our parents worked 3 or 4 jobs between them just to put food on the table, and perhaps we were in a religion that said money was the root of all evil, or our uncle came over for dinner every Sunday and said people with money are jerks. That's what our subconscious believes. And that's what's being blasted out in the universe all day long. So that's how we're creating our reality subconsciously. And when we align our conscious wishes and desires with our subconscious, well, things start to change.
Yeah.
And that is how I took the journey from trauma to transformation, because one by one, I started dealing with all of my blocks on my subconscious. And my life has changed drastically as a result. And now I am even more fascinated by the nature of reality and so many things, like you know, how long we've been here. Like, there's
Mm.
data that says we've been around for billions of years, like
Oh,
things
yeah.
like the number two chromosome. Where did that come from? Why are we still teaching Darwin's theory of evolution when scientists have already proven that it doesn't fit the model of why we're
No,
here?
no, it
So it's
does
all of
not.
those kinds of things that I ponder and I study and read about, and so much more.
Oh, amazing. Wow, that's amazing. And I'm so sorry about your sister, by the way.
Thank you.
What were some of the messages that you got from her after her transition? Like you mentioned, you being able to gather information about who did, who hurt her and all of that. But how has she also helped also? Because what I'm gleaning from what you're saying is that there is so much connection between you and her still that she influences the work that you're doing. And I'm really intrigued to know what are some of those things that, or what are some of those influences that she has on the work that you're currently doing, like through the messages that she gives you.
Okay. Well, it's sometimes it's very subtle things. Like I'll be talking about something and a light that generally works will just go on and off arbitrarily, or something will fall down. Or, for example, the other morning I got up about 4:30 because I'm working on a new monologue for a talk that I'm going to be doing in New York City that I'm very excited about, and details to follow soon. So this is a real big deal for me to do this. So I want to write a new monologue that goes beyond just my work with the subconscious and what I've understood. I want to take a bigger step and talk about what's going on in the world. So I went up early in the morning and I hadn't been in my studio because I go to my studio when I work with clients or when I'm writing or when I'm working with myself. Otherwise, I'm down here in the sunroom because my cats are here and the tea kettle's right there, and it's just a cozy place to do my marketing and social and things like that. So it was a really beautiful time. And I hadn't really been in this creative space since I wrote my book, since I finished.
Yeah.
And as soon as I started writing, I could just immediately feel my sister saying, "Oh, I got so much to talk about." Like I could feel her like buzzing around me, like wanting to be part of this exciting talk that I'm very passionate about giving because I really want to wake people up. And my sister is far more excitable than I am. I say in the book, she's me to the eighth power. So I'm like, all right, kind of, and I'm trying to like write this stuff. I randomly pick up my phone for no reason because it's 5:15 in the morning now, and I decided to take my phone off do not just why? Who's going to disturb me at 5:15 a.m.? Well, the reason I got that little charge, that little inspiration, is because when I picked up my phone and opened it, the same person who had sent me that text of a picture with my sister's and my nickname on the license plate from Florida on the Mercedes, the white Mercedes. So we got color, make, Florida nickname right after I asked for it. That same person who we only text about once a year, she used to work with my sister and they were friends in Florida. That same person had sent me a text at 1:30. Before I even opened it, I went, "Oh my gosh, you're fast." Bam. And it was a meme about sister to the rescue. Like I'm right here. So she's always finding ways to just go, "Yep, that's it. Yes, yes." Information will show up, or sometimes I'll just be writing and I'll step away and I'll read it and I'll go, "Wow, it's really good. I really don't remember writing that at all. Like, did I write that? I don't think I did write that." And that happened a lot throughout the book. In fact, in the book, I'm constantly doing little parenthetical, "You're not going to believe what just happened," while I was writing this. So that happens all the time. Um, she's
Amazing.
pretty amazing, energetically coming through from the other side.
That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. Okay, so talking about the subconscious, right? It's so true. Most of what we rely on is a lot of automatic programming. And it's true when you talk about the affirmations and all those things and the secret. I mean, it sounds great in theory, but it only gets you so far if your subconscious is still out of whack. Because most of what we rely on is like old programs that are running in the background that we are still making decisions off of daily, like every single day, without recognizing that we're doing this using old programming. So wanting to wanting to manifest something new into your life, you can't do that using an old program that is based on like old beliefs or fragmentation and limitations and all of those things that are just sitting in your subconscious, running amok, running your life, taking control over your choices and the way that you perceive things and the way that you create meanings for your experiences, all of that run in the background. There's no way you'd be able to manifest all the new, nice, juicy stuff that you desire. So tell me about this. I'm struggling with my voice today. Tell me about this program that you're speaking of when you talk about rewiring the subconscious or kind of like, I guess, reprogramming all of the gunk that's in there.
Sure. Um, and before I answer that, I want to give a really great analogy to what you just said because people go, "Yeah, but I know what I'm saying." And "Yeah, but I know." They don't get it until you say this. And this is Bruce Lipton's analogy, and it is the best. Everyone who drives a car has had the experience of arriving home in their driveway and going, wow, I can't believe I'm home already. How did I get here? I don't remember going by that house with all the trashed cars in the front yard, or I don't remember going by, I don't remember going by that coffee shop. And the reason you don't remember is because you're not driving the car. Your subconscious is driving the car. Your subconscious remembers how to drive the car. You don't have to think about how to drive the car. That's why people are putting their mascara on and, doing 20 things. They don't have to think about how to drive the car. They don't have to think about where they're going because it remembers all the directions.
Yeah.
Because your subconscious remembers habits, directions, and instructions. And in the same way, it created habits and instructions and directions for you to get home without even thinking about it. It takes all of the beliefs from 0 to 7 that you didn't choose, any emotionally charged experience, whether it's something as benign as splitting your pants at gym class when you were in high school, or something that happened when you were 107, or something really serious, and it becomes part of that program. And it uses all of those experiences and beliefs that are there that create how you see the world, and it creates habits and instructions and directions for you on whether or not you think you're beautiful or ugly, whether or not you think you're smart, whether or not you think you're worthy, whether or not you think you belong, whether or not you think you should have a good marriage. It chooses your partners, your job, your friends, your relationships, whether or not you're happy, sad, anxious, calm. Okay. So that's just for clarity. And that is what self-sabotage is. When we want something, but we don't have a subconscious program that supports it, we sabotage ourselves, because people talk about self-sabotage all the time. They have no idea what it means. That's what it means, you guys. You want something, you have a goal, and it's just no matter how you try, like it keeps self-sabotaging. Your subconscious is self-sabotaging you. So what does one do about it? You align your subconscious to support your conscious wishes and desires. And the tool that I use is called PSYCH-K, PSYCH. Okay, that's for psyche, psych with a K, for the key to sustainable change.
Mm.
PSYCH-K. Now, why did I choose PSYCH-K? Okay, why? Well, that's what my sister told me after she was murdered. And that's what Dr. Bruce Lipton uses. And Dr. Bruce Lipton lists all about 14 different modalities that you can use to change your subconscious. And this is very important. And this is what I say all of my talks. How you choose, how one chooses to rewrite their subconscious is entirely your choice. Okay? Like I said, you can go to Bruce Lipton's website and you can find 14 different ways. But do know this, until you do rewrite your subconscious, you will continue to struggle greatly in the areas of your life that you're struggling with. It's the way it is, man. It's the way reality works. And I didn't make it up. But hey, we have all these different ways you can do it. Here's why I like PSYCH-K, and here's why I think Bruce uses PSYCH-K. And now Bruce, Dr. Bruce Lipton, he's written many best-selling books, New York Times best-selling books. He's a stem cell biologist. He was talking about stem cells before anybody even knew what a stem cell was. He's an amazing guy. I highly recommend Dr. Bruce Lipton, and Greg Braden, two great resources among many, many.
Yeah.
Those guys are my guys. The reason I like PSYCH-K is there's a few reasons. One is there's a lot of myths about change. People think that in order to change and solve a problem, they need to know what caused it.
Yeah. True.
That's not the truth with PSYCH-K. You only need to know what you want. We don't need to get into what happened when you were 5 and what you think it is. PSYCH-K is it's very simple. It's very fast. We have permission involved. We don't do anything without permission. I am not the smartest person in the room. My person who's working with me, that I call my partner during our session, we're partners, they have all the answers. I don't know them. I facilitate a very powerful quantum fast process, but they have all the answers. And the other thing that is very key about Psyche is it's verifiable. The changes are verifiable, and they are verifiable because we use kinesiology, muscle testing. And for those in the audience who do not know what muscle testing is, we each have a built-in lie detector within our bodies. So that, and it's, if we said something that wasn't true, we would have a weak muscle test. And we have a very specific way that we test the muscles in Psych-K. And people can go online and look about muscle testing. But we use it in a very specific way in
Mm.
Psych-K. But the deal is, you can't say something that's not true, that something that your subconscious does not believe, and maintain a strong muscle test. If I said my name is Annie and I was being muscle tested, I'd have a strong muscle test because my subconscious is like, yeah, you are, right?
Mm.
But if I said my name is Charles, my subconscious, which is responsible for holding my arm up and up, responsible for my respiratory system and my excretory system and all these systems in my body, responsible for maintaining strength in my arm, the moment I say something that's not true and at the same time ask it to keep my arm up, it short circuits and it will not be strong. This is the fundamental and key navigating tool in Psych-K that really, it's just like I said, people do a muscle test, it's weak. We do a balance, they they go back and it's strong. What Psych-K does and why it works is because it creates in the brain what's known as a whole brain state.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of research in the whole brain state. Jeffrey Fannin, for one, Dr. Jeffrey Fannin, and more, is that we all know the left-brained people in our lives and the right-brained people in our lives, right? The creative side and the logical side. And it's wonderful diversity to have logical brain and emotional brain. If I had a company, I wouldn't want a bunch of left brain people and a bunch of right brain people. You'd want a mix. But what
Mhm.
happens is over time, the moment we have an emotionally charging experience, we store it in our brain on one side of the brain or the other. And then in the future, any similar experiences get stored the same way. So we start to get very left brained or very right brained about ideas. And what whole, but our birthright is to be whole brained, to have that great diversity when we're coming upon a situation. It's very powerful. So what Psyche does from a neurological perspective is it brings those hemispheres together. And I actually have an EEG of one of our instructors, and you can see before and after the brain scan
Wow.
where she did the balance, like all the red, and then it's gone. And the balance took like, I don't know, 45 seconds, maybe a minute. That's how fast some of these are. This is quantum. This is quantum. This is not about come see me again next week and come see me again next week. It's so much is done with one specific area in your life in one session. It's amazing.
Mm.
So, from a quantum physics perspective, now you're making the law of attraction work for you because you're blasting out what you want. There's no more blocks. And every time a balance is done, you look back at the person and go, how you doing now? I'm like, well, on the spot, people are like, well, I feel pretty good about that. But you know what's still bothering me? And then you deal with that one until they go, I feel really, really good now. I'm like, do you feel like you could take action? Yeah, I do. And they take action. We come up with an action step, very tiny, very small, very simple, very succeedable, and they're on their way. The potential in this work is, I've seen things I can't believe. And I feel, always say I'm living proof. My life before was very different. I was living in a broken down, a house that needed constant repair, even though I loved it. I was in a corporate job that sucked my soul.
Mm.
I never had enough money. I was struggling in a lot of areas in my life, and my life is very different. I don't have my sister anymore in the physical sense, but I have unlimited relationship with her in a way that time and space afford me in a way that I never imagined possible. Well, you know, 30 years ago, I didn't imagine possible, but in a way that most people don't imagine. My sister's always there when I need her.
Mm, wow.
So it's a powerful tool.
Can you do this online with someone because of
I
the
do most
whole?
of my, yeah.
Okay.
So that's a great question. Thank you for that, Krisha. So I actually have clients I've never met before. And conversely, I have clients that, live 4 hours away, but they want to drive to see me for a session because they like just to be with me and they like to be in my studio. And it's just like it's a day for them. So yes, I've done sessions with people all over the place. And the reason you say, well, how can you muscle test somebody if they're not physically in front of you? It's kind of like energetically. And this is, by the way, often referred to as an energy psychology. Is it's like when you call Apple support or computer support and they say, can we have access of your computer? And you let go and all of a sudden they're in your computer. Now, let me just clarify that to say that I certainly am not like, it just allows me access to do muscle testing with my body for your energy, and it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. But again, this is a quantum world. You got to break down that 3D understanding of
Yeah.
this physical world. It's like the dirt underneath my fingernail in a universe is like you can't like we are but specks of dirt under my fingernail.
Wow.
Actually, let me just say, let me clarify that. The Milky Way is a speck of dirt under my fingernail. So how tiny are you? You can't possibly understand. We cannot possibly understand the magnificence of this universe, although scientists and quantum physicists certainly are trying. And in their journey, they may start off as atheists, but they end up being theists because that journey gets them to understand that there's something happening. There's this invisible force that's happening that's far beyond what we can imagine. So when people try to understand, well, I don't understand that. When you have a guru say something like that, tree in front of you is not real. I just had this conversation with my cousin. She's like, what do you mean it's not real? I'm like, okay, well, let's not try to break it down, but really, it's really not. I mean, we've created that. So let's not go that deep, but let's at least agree that if we tried to understand the nature of reality, the nature of the universe and the cosmos and spirit and consciousness all at once, our heads would explode, right?
Mm,
Imagine going from the bottom of the ocean, right, in a scuba gear or in a submarine and going from the bottom to the top in a second. You
no.
can't contain it. We couldn't contain it. But right now on this planet, people are having a hard time understanding the things that they're understanding. There's a lot of things being revealed, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of not just news, but ideas about what we're capable of, and they can't accept it. And you have conversations with people about accepting, that they can heal so many diseases, that we can heal diseases, but people can't embrace that because they don't have a model for it. And if they don't have a model for it, they can't understand it. So I don't know, I kind of said a lot there, but
It's
it's
so
hard
true
for
though.
people to understand the nature and the expansiveness and how dynamic reality is. It's beyond our imagination.
It's so true. And, taking it back to science, like science and spirituality, they really go hand in hand. And I believe that any true scientist has to believe that there is a creator, like any true scientist, because the science tells you that there is a creator. There are just too many things that, because I loved science growing up, I did a lot of sciences. I wanted to go into medicine as well when I was studying in uni. And when you study science, you kind of get to a point whereby things become very unexplainable. You can only explain things to a certain extent, right? And I know that I think the old kind of thinking back then, where scientists back then, a lot of them used to walk around as if they were know-it-alls, as if they could just explain away phenomena and anything that happened. And that is not true, because there are so many gaps there. There are so many things that were completely unexplainable. There were so many things that they didn't want to talk about openly and reveal, that they truly didn't know how things were happening, how, like, even when you talk about like electrons and the way that atoms work and all of those things, and why this one moves to this pole, and when it's excited and all of those things, and what's in between that gap there. There's so many things there that they can't explain, right? So I feel like any true scientist has to believe in something much greater than this physicality, than the materialistic world that we believe that we could just come up with explanations for. And I truly do believe we're just scratching the surface. We're truly just scratching the surface. So definitely love that you mentioned that, and the Darwin theory. There are just so many things that can be easily debunked right now, especially when you talk about quantum physics and the developments that are happening there. It's just incredible. So incredible. So I encourage people to go and research and dig and look into things and read and question things and all of that, because the reality that they told us, the structure of reality as we have been taught, it's not truly how things are.
Well, there's the key right there. Exactly what you just said. The structure of reality and holding on to this structure that's been built. And that's why when this new information comes in, if it threatens this paradigm, it goes away, right? People are very comfortable. People like structure and they like rules because it makes them feel safe, right?
Yeah.
As much as they say they don't want that, it makes them, that's what they say about children. They need some structure, they need some rules. It makes them feel safe. Well, we're no different, okay? We are no different. It's just at a larger scale. Like I can talk to some people, and when I start to say something, you see them get very scared because all of a sudden they thought they had everything figured out, that this is how it is. And when you start to take these bricks out and you go, well, actually, that's not true. And that's not true. Oh, and by the way, you create your reality. And by the way, that tree's not really there. Depending on, you could just see them start to, like, they start to lose it, right? So
Yeah.
don't think that the powers that be want structure and order on this planet. There's too many people here. Of course, that's all changing now because people are waking up. And the more people that wake up, the more people wake up. And the more people wake up, the more people wake up. It's an exponential situation.
Mhm.
It's even though, just because I'm nice to you, you might be nice to somebody else. And if I'm vibrating joy, the energy field goes out so far.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about science and spirit, and that's what these guys like Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, Linda McTaggart, um, Michael Beckwith, Joe Dispenza, and so many other names. Okay.
Yeah.
They are on this mission, which is much bigger than mine, but I feel like I'm a little disciple of their mission in my little areas that I can reach. I don't have the fame. They do. That's great. Just get it out there. To have this great convergence of science and spirit and having people understand, because the thing is, people will listen. Is it science? They'll listen. Well, guess what? These are a bunch of scientists out there who are talking about what you're saying, like, why does an electron do this? Why does this do this? Some of the things I just learned in Greg Braden's book, Pure Human, which I cannot emphasize enough that every person on the planet should read. And he breaks it down and he'll blow your mind in such a beautiful way. Something that really blew, I knew that we had 50 trillion cells in our body. Like, this is amazing, right?
Mm,
But let's break that number down, like 1 trillion. Never mind 50 trillion. Do you know how long it takes to count to 1 trillion?
yeah,
Over 32,000 years.
man.
Okay. Now, each one of these cells, this is from Pure Human, and this is, you can Google this information as well, but this is what I learned from Greg Braden, has a charge of zero point 0.7, which is not much.
Hmm.
But when you put it with 50 trillion cells in one body, it would take a number of 12.5 volt car batteries to make to equivalent. And the number of 12.5 volt car batteries it would take to meet the charge of our body is 2 billion
That's
car batteries. So who
insane.
wants to tell me we have no energy, right? And our cells have receptors and they have antennas, and it's just like, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And now, what's so important and what I really understand in the way that Greg Braden put it is that if we don't hold on to who we are and remember who we are, because we all have all the answers. If we don't remember, we came here to remember who we are. We can rely. I mean, I use AI all day long for information. Can you curate me a list of this? Can you tell me, is this a better, review that? But I don't ask it to do things for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't ask it to write my book or write a song for me
Hmm.
because that's a human thing. In fact, I got into an argument with Chat the other day because I was asking about a contract that I was doing, and I made a mistake, and I wanted to go back and say, hey, I didn't put it in the contract, but verbally, hey, how can I do this? And Chat and I got into, I mean, I say it actually said, oh, this is a typical Annie situation where Annie gets on the hill and she won't get off until she wins the battle. I, hello?
Nonsense.
And Annie, you're thinking about this with true emotion. This is a contract. And I said, well, hello, I'm human. This is what we're talking about. It's like if I took Chat GPT's advice and redid this little email and said, hey, by the way, I know I said this, would not let me concede ever that I made a mistake to say to this person, hey, I'm sorry. I misspoke or I got confused or nope, can't do that. You just have to say, by the way, regarding this, this is what we're doing and act like we never had a conversation. Now, a lot of people are going to go, hey, that's what Chat GP told me to do. So AI knows everything and I'm going to do it. But what Chat GPT and AI is not allowing for is that moment of grace, is for the emotion that that person might be like, oh, okay, well, I understand. That happens. People make mistakes, Annie. And I met you and I like you. I know you're a good person. It doesn't allow for us to be human. And we're going to strip that away and our humanness will be gone, just like people can't do math anymore, right?
Yeah.
We've been using calculators in the same way that we've diminished our math skills. We will diminish our skills of creativity and to use our intuition and our emotions because we will, if you don't use it, you will lose it.
Yeah.
That's scary.
And it's already bad enough because people are already so disconnected from their emotions, right? So disconnected. And, it's all still perpetuated by the things that we take in when we watch the news, when we watch TVs and whatever it is that we watch on TV, the movies and whatever, whereby there is just this constant disconnect. So, this is just another thing whereby you got to know how to use it without allowing it to kind of infiltrate everything that you do and infiltrate your thinking or just your humanness, just being human. And I definitely agree. I think anything that we have created, they are tools, right? But I think we have had this over reliance. And I think that also comes from this aspect whereby this old program whereby we have been taught for millennia to give our power away, right? We're always giving our power away to something. It started with the church and all of the nonsense there. It started, and then you talk about the government, the church and the government, and how they work together to kind of, like see this into the collective, right? To kind of like seed it in, plant it into all of us, right? That
All
we're
right, we're going there. I love it.
there's this constant reliance on something outside of us, on someone outside of us, on a system, on an institution, on all of these things, right? And so then we have the technology and we develop the technology. And instead of appreciating it as a tool, it becomes an over reliance again. And we're giving our power away to it. And I think it just goes back to that kind of program whereby everything that we should be relying on here, we're dependent on it towards something outside of us.
You said that so beautifully. That's absolutely correct. Even when you go to the doctor, right? The doctor said,
Yeah.
my psychologist told me that I fill in the blank. Like, well, if the doctor said, instead of saying this, because what the doctor believes and what the doctor said, first of all, the doctor, you know yourself more than the doctor. I'm not saying that doctors don't bring anything to the table. So let me be clear. My sister was a doctor, but she would have said exactly what I'm saying. What I believe about your healing will impact your healing. So if I tell you you're very sick and you need these drugs, you're automatically going to believe it because I told you.
Exactly.
So we have been taught that all of the power is without side of us, and we've been taught since we were little kids. I had a blog that I wrote about the Buddha, who said, don't believe anything that you hear,
Mm,
even if it's from your government official, even if it's from your religious leaders, even if it's from a book, even if it does not, register with you, trust your own discernment, basically. And that's another divine gift that we have. That's what our gut is. That's what Chat GPT couldn't understand, is my gut kept saying all along, you know what? Take the loss, Annie. You're talking about very little money here. Just move forward. You said that verbally. Don't go back on your word. You got the wrong information. It's not worth it. And I have that ability to tap in and go, that doesn't feel right. Chat GPT didn't have that ability.
yeah.
So we can't, like you said, put it outside of us. We have to start really bringing it back in,
Hmm.
because that's where really all the power is. It's always been there. It's just been misdirected. And hopefully now with this wonderful podcast that you have, okay, and the work that you're doing and the work that I'm doing and other people like us trying to reach more people to say, wake up,
Yeah.
wake up, wake up, right? That's what we're trying to do, is say, hey, man, look what's going on around here. Hopefully, um, we will help people remember who they are and remember our divine intelligence, which is so much. We are, as Greg says, we are a flesh of, intelligence. We are technology made of flesh.
Yeah.
And scientists wish that they could recreate what we can do through, any IT engineer. They can't even none of the computers that anything can even compete with the capabilities within us. We just have to peel back the layers and and believe that it's possible, I guess, which is something that I try to help people, first of all, believe that it's possible.
I love that. That's so amazing. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So Tell me some more about your book because when we talked about all of this and it got me thinking about how, because we're talking about energy and you know, we're able to help each other heal through talking through a computer screen, right? You're able to help your clients in that way because of energy, because of the way that energy works, right? So, talking about your sister and her not physically being here anymore and having her be a part of so much of what you're doing, I think that is so beautiful. So,
Mhm.
I'd love to know some more about your book because, like I saw how excited you got earlier when you were talking about your book and how she came through with a lot of the things that you put in your book. So, yeah, like what can we expect from that work?
So you can expect a lot of what we've been talking about in this book, which is like, well, wait a minute. What kind of book is this? Where does it sit on the shelf in a bookstore? So it really is about transformation and self-help, but it's in a with a title like what my sister told me after she was murdered, right? It's like true crime and mysticism, right? So the book is a journey that talks about the murder. It talks mostly about my relationship with my sister, and of course, what happened. It was when we were both having these exciting periods of our life when we were tapping into our excitement and understanding it was a mission.
Mm,
And during that time, there's this terrible murder. So as a woman once said to me, an author, actually, I can't remember which one it was. It was either Marsha Bradley or Alex Soitha, both who are instructors, teachers, professors, pardon me, at Sarah Lawrence College. That the murder, for lack of a better word, but this is a great analogy,
mm,
the murder, because people love true crime, is the sugar that makes the medicine go down. And the medicine is the transformation.
mm.
Like through reading this very gripping story, which haven't had a lot of reviews, but it's just getting out there now. I've got like 50 reviews, but they're all like great read, fast. It's a page turner. It's what happens next, what happens next, what happens next. Even though the story is on the news and you can go look at it. And I'm sure there's probably at least 10 true crime programs that cover this murder of my sister, Dr. Teresa Sievers. In this book, they are not only going to see themselves in this book when they go, well, that's happened to me.
Yeah.
I've had that happen to me as well. I also talk a lot about, I take a step aside and talk about, well, what does this mean? Why did this happen? Why is this possible? If we all choose our lives, why did my sister choose to come here and be brutally murdered? So it's kind
Yeah.
of like a little bit of true crime, a lot of spiritual transformation, and a lot of educational quantum physics. All, if I dare say, I blended it together quite brilliantly. It was a challenge to say, well, how am I going to go? But I mean, I have a 30-year background in writing, in copywriting, in marketing, so I understood how clear I had to take people on this journey and not to go down rabbit holes. So I had a couple issues, right? Not to go down rabbit holes and to tell this powerful story about my sister so that my sister's goal was to reach the masses with an understanding of the conversation that you and I are having now. Although 11 years ago, it wasn't even that full as it is now.
Yeah.
But her mission was to reach the masses. And sadly, it was in her death that she reached the masses. In fact, the headshot that my sister had done for her PR agency ended up not being used to promote her as Dr. Teresa Sievers, who was going to be known all around the world. It was the headshot that every news station had talking about her murder instead. And another one of those shots from that photo session ended up being the cover of my book. So she did reach the masses with her message for healing, which I also am able to discuss. There's a lot of humor in the book. My sister was very funny. I'm pretty funny. So there's a lot of humor in there. And so I heard from people after this book was released that I hadn't heard from in 30 years. People
Wow.
I used to work with who would message me at 10 o'clock at night while I was, Annie, it's been a long time. I just read your book. I'm completely blown away. Great. Like this is amazing. Like, when are you speaking? Where can we find you? So I'm really happy with it. And now I'm really getting some traction. My book is online at different places now where it wasn't. So in large chains, so people can go online, and I'm doing a lot more speaking engagements, which is really my favorite thing. I love podcasts, but I love live events. So, the book is truly a testimony to our mission, the nature of reality, and my journey as living proof of where I was and where I am. It's because of this work that my sister you know, told me about and told me this big secret to reality. It's all the subconscious, you know. And I'm not saying there's not even other ways, probably there's all sorts of tools, but this is a big one that because of what my sister told me after she was murdered, I was not only be able to change my life and go from grief to joy, and be a living proof of what possible was, but I had some real information and a platform to stand on to talk about this subject, which is very important for all to hear during this time that we find ourselves. I mean, people are scared, they're anxious, they're angry, they feel powerless about everything's going on, and it's like, well, that's what we're here to talk about because you have control over all of that.
Mm.
We can do this. And until my last breath that's in my body, this is what I preach. This is what I teach. This is what I speak about. This is what I do. This is what, when you say something and you get the chills, every
Yeah.
time I talk about it, I'm covered from head to toe because I know this is my mission. This is my purpose. My life is my mission, and my mission is my life. And everybody has that. You just have to, and everybody knows that they have that mission and that purpose. But perhaps there's too many subconscious beliefs that have prevented them from getting there.
Mm.
I have to thank my sister for she got me there.
It's very powerful work.
Hmm.
That's so powerful. That is amazing. Did you did you find it hard at all when she first transitioned? Did you find it hard at all to first have that connection with her, or was it like right away? Like, how open were you? Because when you're grieving, it can be very difficult for some people to make that connection with their loved ones, to feel their energy and, be comforted by that energy. How
That's a
was
good.
that for you?
So you're absolutely correct because at first I wasn't like, you're not like, oh, well, I know how to communicate with dead people and I get messages. So I know that, you don't even go there. It's just like, first it's like, Teresa's dead. And you're like, what? And then it's like, you don't know how you're going to live. And then 4 hours later, it's Teresa was murdered. What? And then it's people said the scene was gruesome. And then you find out she was beaten to death with a hammer. So it got insanely horrible, more horrible with every passing moment. And then it was her husband. And the fallout from there is it was just enormous. So you're right. You're in such a state. And that's why I actually asked other people to please be open because I'm asking Teresa for help once, and I'm not going to get into that because it's a very powerful section of the book. I asked other people to be open that I knew my sister would come to, and it's exactly what happened. But when did my sister first come to me? It was she was murdered on a Sunday. We all found out on a Monday. On Tuesday, I was in Florida.
Mm.
And our mutual, mine and Teresa's mutual, like sister friend, flew down and shared a hotel room with me. I don't know if it was the first night or the second, I don't remember. But we went to bed and I had my first tactile experience with a spirit. And I was in a deep sleep and I felt somebody pushing on my back and rubbing in a circle. And it got harder and the pressure increased until I awoke. And it was my friend was sleeping, there was nobody there. But I just knew. Obviously I could feel. You feel. I felt my sister saying, "I'm okay. It's okay." And that's what my sister would do. She'd rub your back like, "That's okay." So she did. And so that was powerful. But here's what another thing that happened either the next day, and
Mm.
I think it was we all met at a condo. We all ended up renting condos. And so my whole family was there. And everyone has, I would say most people have had this experience. I certainly have. And I write about a very powerful one in the book, which is really what catapulted Teresa and I on this journey. My brother got up, my brother Patrick, and he goes, we were just kind of like everybody was getting their tasks for the day. Who had to talk to the funeral director? My friend and I had to go out and, shop for wigs for my sister, all kinds of things, because we weren't sure where we were going to have an open casket. My mother's Catholic, is that they were just so you can imagine, right? And then who's talking to investigators and who's got the kids and a million other things. My brother says, "Man," because I got this song stuck in my head. What are you talking about? Hey, because I got this song stuck in my head and it's driving me crazy. He goes, "I don't know the name of the song. I just know I don't like it and it's really bugging me." Look, it was just a passing comment, but I took notice because I was like, that's probably going to mean something later.
Mm.
So later that night, everybody came back from all their errands, and my brother goes, well, they all know my stories, right? So my brothers, not so much my brother Patrick, my brother Frankie was a big skeptic. Every time I would tell him something had happened, he'd give me one of those, okay, whatever you say, right? But it started happening for everybody because my sister was like, oh, everybody's going to come on board on this trip. And my brother goes, remember what I told you before? Remember what I told you that song? And I said, yeah. Now I was ready for it. He goes, well, Frankie and I decided to stop off and get some wine. Now they could have gone anywhere to get wine. There's only a mill. I mean, they sell it in down south. You can get it at a gas station. It's not like up north here where you got to find a package store, a spirit store. They
Mm.
could have gone to any, they probably had 200 choices of where to go with where they were. But this one store, they walked in and that song was playing. And the name of the song, my brother remembered because he heard it. It's called Alive and Kicking. And as soon as he told me, I mean, right now I could just cry. I was like, and he knew. And I go, yeah, that's exactly how it works. She was saying, I'm alive and kicking. Well, what an interesting song. Not only am I alive, but I'm kicking. And the reason I'm kicking is because I got some shit to tell you people, and you better be paying attention,
Mm.
which was my job. And another incredible thing was the the mantra that kept us all going was just breathe, just breathe. So that's all we said to each other. Everybody says it now. This is 11 years ago. Just
Yeah.
breathe. Just like everybody says it's all good. It's all good. My friend said that 35 years ago. Nobody was saying it. And I had some weird experiences with that. So my brother Frank went for it. And we kept hearing it over and over again because that song by Anna Nellick kept coming on. So my brother Frank, the skeptic at the time, comes back from a walk and he tells me this story. He goes, you're not going to believe this. He goes, well, you will believe this. He goes, I'm walking and I'm telling, I'm crying and I'm thinking about Teresa not being here anymore because we're only like 3 days in to this horror show. And he goes, all right, Teresa, um, if you're so, whatever, like, I don't believe in any of this, but if you want to make me a believer, play that song, just breathe. And he thought he was being a little tricky because he was listening to a rock and roll station. He wasn't listening to, this song wasn't going to come on this station, because his genre that he picked was like, 90s rock. So
Yeah.
of course, what comes on? Breathe, just breathe. But it was the one by Pearl Jam. And as soon as he saw that come up, he was like, I could just hear my sister on the other line. Oh, you want to play that game? How are we doing now? Are you with me? You know? And then like phones would turn on, like phones would just turn, like they would be off on the table and they would just turn on and open up and play that song, or answer a question. It was I believe, and from what I've read, when we first leave the body, of course, we're still very connected, right? You don't just like, you're not just in your body one day and then you have no remembrance of this life and your spirit. There's a calibration period, right? There's a training period. That's why your departed loved ones are up there to help you integrate and to help you separate from our bodies that we're very attached to. We're very attached to this body.
Yeah.
So, in the beginning, my sister was like incredible, especially because she had something, she had to tell us who killed her. She
Yeah.
had to protect her kids. So she was like really, but, but like I said, even since then, I mean, 11 years later, for me to be sitting down and writing this book, and even the message with the license plate, that was 10 years after her death. 10 years. And she was still right there with the calling card. That's extraordinary. But
Mm.
that's the connection, and that's the kind of evolved consciousness, evolved spirit that she is.
Mm. That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. So, what would you say, like from your connection with your sister, what is her message? What would she want people to know?
Every single thing that I'm saying in this podcast and more,
Mm.
every single thing, every single word, and so much more.
Yeah. It's beautiful work that you do. Such
Thank you.
beautiful work, Annie. I love
Thank you.
it. Yeah.
Because everything that I'm saying is everything that she led me to and
Yeah.
everything that we believed. And we were, like I say, we're twin flames. Like we were like, people used to confuse us sometimes because we were very similar in very many ways and very different in our delivery somehow, but we sounded the same. People say we look the same. We don't look anything alike. But now everyone looks at the cover of the book. They go, oh, you look just like her. I go, I really don't, but maybe we are looking alike. I don't know. But so everything that I've done, of course, I've had a passion I've done, and the whole subconscious situation with Bruce Lipton. I mean, my sister, she's the one who said we have a mission. I just knew something weird was happening when you both share prophetic dreams about the end of the world, and in one of them, Jesus is pointing you to, saving you from a fire, and in mine, saving me from floods. And we never shared that dream until that moment in time. I mean, and it's Jesus because that's our experience. It's not to say it
Yeah.
couldn't have been, you know what I mean? I'm not religious at all. I'm huge on God. I'm
Yeah.
not huge on that. But, you know, um, so she was the one who immediately put it together and was just, listen, this is big. We're supposed to do something here. And I'm like, well, what? I don't know, but we're going to find out. Just like we've been getting on, we're going to know. So she's always the catalyst. My sister has been the catalyst since she was 2 years old. She was telling everybody what to do, and we all just were like, okay, we don't know how Teresa knew everything, but Teresa, I talk about that. She just was a little firecracker who knew everything. So she's an amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your sister with us. That was so
Thank you
amazing.
for this
Thank you so
platform.
much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to share my mission and to talk about my sister and to help people understand, like, don't give up. Don't look at this mess. Turn the news off. Go out in nature, breathe, feel the heartbeat of the planet. This isn't woo-woo. That's just that's just a story that you're told to prevent you from remembering who you are. Because when we all remember who we are, all this nonsense goes away, goes away.
Yeah.
So please turn your TVs off, give yourself a hug, give yourself a break, and tap into a tool that is going to help you remember who you are and get you unstuck and
Mm,
really get over these limitations.
yeah. And we are the woo. Just so you know, people, we are the woo. If, people really look into the dynamics of how we're even created. I know we talk about things being woo woo, but being a human being is woo. It's spiritual. Everything about being human
Love
and
it.
existing here is woo.
I'm gonna remember that.
So, yeah, thank you so much,
Thank
Annie.
you. Thank you
This
so much, Krisha, and I'll follow up with you on the other end.
definitely, this has been phenomenal. Tell us where we can reach you and get your books and
Sure.
reach out to you for your
So,
work.
so I'm gonna show you the cover. There's my beautiful sister. And my
Beautiful.
book is available online at Amazon, on Books A Million, and Barnes and Noble. And my website, where you can find everything about me, I have a link tree as well, but everything is on my website, is Annie Lisa Life. My name, Annie Lisa, and the word life after it.com, AnnieLisaLife.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.